The kettle has just boiled.
And it is finally time for the Faerie Queene. It is a cold January day. Very snowy, but very sunny also. I've walked down to the lake to see the water and see the ducks. But now I'm very glad to be indoors where it's warm. To be here with you and a good book. Yeah, I hope your January is going well. And if you're in the same hemisphere as me, that you are finding good warmth. There, that will be good. All right. So, my copy of book one of the Faerie Queene has something in common with Northanger Abbey in that it has lots of marginalia from the person who had it last. Like here, there's a bit where it says "burned night," because at this point, the Red Cross Knight has just encountered a dragon and gotten rather scorched. But I realized that last time I said I was going to maybe show you some of the marginalia in Northanger Abbey. I hadn't actually done so. So maybe I should. I'm trying to find a piece that's maybe more readable. I don't know, like there's a section here. And most of this marginalia is written like the book is held this way, and they've like written across that way. This one is clear narrative voice describing something meaningless details in meaningful way, establishing realism as essential for novels. So the previous owner seems to be, interested in sort of Jane Austen kind of taking novels in the direction more of realism, as she's sort of in some ways critiquing, but I think also sort of celebrating Gothic novels or romantic novels with a more that maybe are diverging from realism, and she's kind of charting her own path or going the more realistic way. Anyway, but this is a copy. It was given to me by a friend, but it was owned by someone else before that, who underlines all the time, and occasionally has writes notes. Oh yes, like this part where King Arthur comes into the story. They have very helpfully just written King Arthur, in case I missed it. And there's also a lot of good footnotes. Like this has been annotated by who has this been annotated by? I guess Carol V. Cask. I may not be pronouncing her name right. Yeah, I love this one. Just blame spiritual Cupid. For dismay. Why not? I would actually maybe I would like to read maybe a piece of the first stanza or two, and then maybe skip ahead to the dragon. I'm not sure yet. But a gentle knight was pricking on the plain, clad in mighty arms and silver shield, wherein old dints of deep wounds did remain, the cruel marks of many a bloody field. Yet arms till that time did he never wield. His angry steed did chide his foaming bit, as much disdaining to the curb to yield. Full jolly knight he seemed, and fair did sit, as one for knightly jousts and fierce encounters fit. And on his breast a bloody cross he bore, the dare remembrance of his dying lord, for whose sweet sake that glorious badge he wore, and dead as living ever him adored. Upon his shield the like was also scored, for sovereign hope which in his help he had. Right faithful true he was in deed and word, but of his cheer did seem too solemn sad. Yet nothing did he dread, but ever was dread. So, Yes, this is our introduction to the Red Cross Knight, who has the red cross on his, I think, on his armor and on his shield, as a reminder of Christ. Um, yeah, his dear remembrance of his dying Lord. And so the language is like, it's not, doesn't all come naturally for me to read. Also, the spelling in some cases is such that it takes me a moment. So reading it out loud helps me get more of the sense. And also the footnotes are often very helpful, and the other marginalia added thereafter. But I've been enjoying it quite a bit. I have a friend, Rebecca Reynolds, who's working, or maybe has completed a complete prose rendering of the Faerie Queene. So I think that goes beyond the first book, which is the one I have so far. Um, and it's going to be published. There's a Kickstarter at some point, and I'll share the link with you if you're interested in like learning more about that project. But I think it's not yet available to order, but but it will be, and I'm very much looking forward to reading that version. Just as a way to maybe like maybe some parts that were less clear to me to maybe become more clear. I'm going to have some tea now. Yeah. And actually, I do have a teacup here that you may use. Yeah, this was one that belonged to my grandmother, and because it has my birth month in it, March, this one was given to me. I don't want you to drink dust here. I'll set it to the side for you. All right. So I want to read a bit further on. When I was visiting my sister and my brother-in-law and my nieces this past weekend, my nieces love to ask for stories, and sometimes they help me tell the stories, and sometimes they will tell me stories. But I had this book with me, and maybe they were a little bit sorry that there were no pictures inside. But I told them what was going on in the picture on the front. That this is the Red Cross Knight, and he's on his horse, and he's killing at this point more of a smaller dragon than the one that he contends with later. Um, and so as I was telling other stories, mostly I tell them Spider-Man stories, or unicorn stories. There's a unicorn named Serendipity that we have an ongoing series, or just other kinds of superheroes sometimes. But sometimes, occasionally, I've told them like stories about Sir Galahad, and so I figured, well, this is the book I have on hand. I would try to tell them a little bit of a story from here. So I'd only gotten a little bit in, and I still haven't finished the section of the dragon, so I don't actually know how it ends, if the dragon wins or the Red Cross Knight wins. Um, but I started with what I had understood from the first couple of stanzas, and then I kind of filled in a guess on maybe what would happen next. That he would pray for help from God. That he'd holster his spear in the sort of in the saddle on his horse and charge, and that maybe I kind of decided to fill in at the moment, since I hadn't finished reading it yet, that that it would be like in The Hobbit when they have they find the hole in Smaug's armor, that there's one piece um of his scales that are like missing, and they can Bard can shoot the arrow in. So I had something like that, where he sees this one little gap, and is able to thrust the spear. Um, I forget. I forget what else I have. What else happened? I told it was a fairly simple story. I think that I told to my nieces, who are 5 and 3. Um, but now I'm actually like reading the rest, and yeah, as you notice in the footnotes, the night has just gotten scorched. But I want to go back maybe to the beginning of this chapter, because it is a great moment. The chapter is not the right word. It is a canto. It is a canto. Mm. And I will butcher the language, so apologies in advance. I have the summary. here. Everyone does also start with a summary stanza. The knight with that old dragon fights 2 days incessantly. The third him overthrows and gains most glorious victory. Oh, so we do have spoilers. I forgot to read that part and see that we do know who's going to win. High time now gain it wex for Una fair to think of those her captive parents dare, and therefore wasted kingdom to repair. Whereto, whenas they now approached near, with hearty words her knight she gan to chair, and in her modest manner thus bespake: Dear knight, dear as ever knight was dear, that all these sorrows suffer for my sake. High heaven beholds the tedious toil ye for me take. Now are we come unto my native soil, and to the place where all our perils dwell. Here haunts that fiend that does his daily spoil. Therefore henceforth be at your keeping well, and ever ready for your foemen fell. The spark of noble courage now awake, and strive your excellent self to excel, that shall ye evermore renowned make. Above all knights on earth that battle undertake. And pointing forth, Lo, yonder is, said she, the brazen tower in which my parents dear, for dread of that huge fiend imprisoned be, whom I from far see on the walls appear, whose sight my feeble soul doth greatly cheer. And on the top of all I do espy the watchman waiting's tidings glad to hear, that, oh, my parents, might I happily unto you bring to ease you of your misery. With that they heard a roaring, hideous sound, that all the air with terror filled wide, and seemed uneath to shake the steadfast ground. Eftsoons that dreadful dragon they espied, where stretched he lay upon the sunny side of a great hill, himself like a great hill. But all so soon as he from far descried those glistening arms that heaven with light did fill, he roused himself full blithe and hastened them until. So that begins a very exciting portion of the story where the gigantic dragon, I love that picture of him spread across the sunny side of this hill, and himself like almost the size of another giant hill. And I also have on my bookshelf. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. I have what looks like a series of books, but is in fact chocolate. That I would share with you. Maybe I will read another stanza for you. But help yourself to some of that. Yeah. So I suppose the backdrop, which I haven't necessarily filled in, and it's definitely worth reading for yourself in whatever version you find best suits you, is that Una is, I think her name means truth. Is a very allegorical, sometimes maybe a little on the nose of a story where characters are named after virtues and vices and various things. There's the Red Cross Knight, for a certain time is sort of separated from Una, so sort of, so to speak, separated from the truth, under faults on somebody who's sort of either pretending to be good or pretending to be Una herself. And then he ends up in the House of Vices, but eventually he escapes, and then Una also has some side adventures on her own, and she kind of comes and sort of rescues and helps restore, with the help of King Arthur, helps restore the Red Cross Knight, and then they go to the House of Healing, and Faith, Hope, and Love are there, like 3 sisters who help. So anyway, all these various adventures they go are all leading up to the Red Cross Knight, sent out from the court of the Faerie Queene. He's come to help help Una rescue her parents. I guess her parents' homeland are under the control of this dragon. So this is like the big sort of climax of this part of the story anyway. So I am very much looking forward to reading the conclusion. I'm at the 11th hour, so to speak, the 11th canto of 12 cantos in this book. And the more I read it, and especially reading it out loud, the more I appreciate the language, and can sort of understand the flow in the words that Edmund Spenser uses. But anyway, I'm very much enjoyed that, and I'm enjoying sharing it with you. And I hope you continue to have a great day and delve into many good books. And I will see you another time.